Hi everyone, this is Holly, and welcome to my fall series. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you click that button. DIY number 1. I'm using a Dollar Tree frame here, and I don't know why, I guess the video wasn't recording when I tore out the first part of it, but it's that one that has that little center thing in that swings. I just tore it out, and now I'm sponging on some white primer from Kilz, K-I-L-Z, and that just is my to-go-to paint right now because it sticks really, really well. And I'm painting it white so that I can stain it to look like faux wood. I'm using a watered down burnt umber with a little bit of black to cut down the red color in burnt umber, and that brings up a nice dark walnut faux stain, I guess. It's similar to the Minwax one without having to spend all that money, but it's perfect for this craft. And I decide I want to make it look sanded, but I'm not sure this frame is going to stand up to sanding. So what I come up with is I dab it with a Kleenex to remove some of the paint just here and there, and that gives me those light and dark areas like I sand without actually sanding, and it ends up looking really, really pretty and really, really distressed and vintage. So I'm really happy with how this comes out. And now I just want to make the stem, you know, stand out a little bit more, look like a stem, but I don't want it to be drastically different. I definitely want this to be just a subtle, you know, difference so it looks like a stem there. What I'm doing is I'm taking a brush that's really dry and kind of caked. I've probably used it for Mod Podge before. The bristles are really thick and it's scratchy, and that's another really quick way to get a beautiful faux wood branch or a stem without, you know, I showed you the way you can do it when you scratch into it with a sharp instrument. That's another method for doing it when you don't want to make scratches but you want the stem to have that 3D look, is just find a brush. It can even be a hairbrush, but something that has really stiff, scratchy bristles, and go over the paint while it's wet, and it will bring up those beautiful lines for you. Now here's the Dollar Tree waste basket, and this is going to be my faux chicken wire. I'm actually trying to dupe a craft I saw on Hobby Lobby last year. They probably still have something similar where they, you know, have the open framed pumpkin and then they have the chicken wire behind it. Now I like, this is just me, I like the wastebasket for a faux chicken wire better than I do actual chicken wire, because chicken wire, the real chicken wire, is really big. It's got big holes, and I feel like it kind of gets lost in the whole, I don't know, I just actually think like a little, it almost reminds me of a miniature chicken wire for miniature chickens, like the 3-tiered tray decor that I made. These is like little miniature chicken wire. It reminds me of that, but on a small version, and I just think it's so perfect for crafting. So you can see what I did. I just cut it using sharp tools, and here's the trick, you guys. You're going to want to use craft sticks for sure to hold this down. It worked beautifully. As you're going around the edges, you know, you're cutting it so that it's the same shape as the pumpkin. But I actually had glued some craft sticks down before I put the chicken wire down, and then I kind of closed the chicken wire in the craft sticks, at least with the two big ones. The small ones, the craft sticks are directly laying on the pumpkin, but the two big ones, the chicken wire is in between a craft stick. Now I'm taking gray, pewter gray, and I'm just showing you here how I'm making it look like real metal. I just cover it with pewter gray, and then I take some of that iridescent silver and I go over it, and now I'm edging it with my favorite color, black, you guys, to make it look nice and old and distressed. And we have a beautiful metal faux mini chicken wire coming up here with a nice pumpkin frame. So I'm really happy with how this is turning out. And also really important to use that iridescent silver, you guys. That's really what gave it that, you know, edge, because in the light it looks like real metal. It looks really good. And here's the leaf that came off of one of those big orange pumpkins. I saved those leaves, and I'm just distressing that a little bit as well. And now I'm using the Harvest word that comes from the Dollar Tree, and I'm adding some super glue gel to it, as well as some hot glue for an instant hold. I'm going to glue that down in the center, and then I'm going to glue that leaf on the top. And as with most of my fall DIYs, I love adding a little bit of raffia to the final piece. I think it just really kicks off a nice energy for the autumn season and just finishes off this little galvanized leaf really, really well. Not sure if the Hobby Lobby one had that, but it came out super cute. Here it is, you guys. It is so nice in real life. You pick it up, it's super heavy because the whole thing's metal. It looks like chicken wire. It's just a great Farmhouse Hobby Lobby dupe for a DIY and home decor piece. I hope you guys get a chance to try it. It was a lot of fun. DIY number 2. For this craft, you're going to need some wood. I'm using Home Depot's lath, that redwood lath. I've mentioned it before in previous videos. You get about 96 inches, there it is, for $1.12. Super cheap, and it goes a long way, and it sure beats, getting 2 or 3 rulers at the Dollar Tree and trying to make a frame out of it, because this is a much bigger frame. So I recommend you go get some lath, because we can always change the color of it. If you don't like the redwood, some people will like the redwood, but just wanted to pass that on. It's a nice tip, and they'll cut it for you at Home Depot. I found this rug at the Dollar Tree, and I immediately fell in love. Now, the print isn't straight, and I knew that was going to drive me nuts. So the first thing I do is I cut some of the edge off there to make the truck go in the center. Maybe that was a mistake, or maybe that was on purpose. I'm not sure, but I just want it in the center. And I'm going to go ahead and start drawing shiplap lines on it with a permanent marker. That's all it is. It's just a permanent marker, because we're going to be turning this into a wall hanging. Now, this was going to go outside above my outdoor bench on my porch, because honestly, it's so cute in real life and happy looking. The energy is just really bright. It's a little too bright for me, so we are using some paint here to kind of distress it a little bit, make it look a little bit more old and farmhouse-ish to go with my style. But I couldn't stand the idea of people wiping their feet on this. That just really bothered me. And the idea was going to be that it was going to hang above my bench. And then my sister, she put in for it. So it's at her house now. And to be fair, her husband actually drives this truck. I mean, they own the red truck. So I made a couple of the red truck crafts, and they've all gone to her this year, and that's totally okay. But I was happy to do it because, I love my sister. So I'm glad she has it and she's enjoying it. But anyway, I'm going to do a shout out now to She's So Crafty here on YouTube. I saw her paint a rug once, and it came out pretty darn good. So this is where I got my idea from. I thought, I'm going for it because it looked good when she did it, when it was on the wall. And that white cloth you see me rubbing is actually a baby wipe. I'm just using it to work the paint down into the rug a little bit more, because it's hard to do it when it's just a paintbrush. I found it was staying too much on the surface, and I really wanted to get it down in there. So you can use any kind of cloth you want. I just used a baby wipe. So here I'm putting the white primer paint on the redwood lath, and we're going to do the same trick we did with DIY number 1. We're using a little bit of the watered down burnt umber with a little bit of black paint and a tiny bit of water to make a stain here, and we're going to stain all that wood and bring it up to like a nice dark walnut color. After the paint dries, this is what we end up with, and it came out really good. Now, because it is a floppy rug, it does need a backing, so I'm just using a little bit of the Dollar Tree foam board, and I'm gluing it down. I cut it to match the shape of the rug, and now I'm just taking my lath and I'm gluing the frame around the outer edge. And here it is, you guys. This came out so surprisingly cute. It is such a big piece, so it makes a big statement. If you're into that red truck decor and you really want something to make a statement on your porch or on your mantle, this is it. So a lot of fun. Love the way this came out. This week's shout out goes to Janet Moore and Dina from Memphis, Tennessee. They have sent me more farmers market calendars, you guys, and again, they did it for free. I love you guys so much. You are awesome. So we have 6 calendars to give away, and you know the drill by now. make sure you put the word calendar somewhere in your comment in capital letters so that when the program scours through those comments, you will be entered into the drawing. This will be my third and final drawing for the Farmers Market calendar. I think I'm all calendared out now, you guys, but it's been a lot of fun. If you see someone in the comments that doesn't have a calendar, please reach out directly to them and see if you can't work something out. We can help each other that way. And as always, I wish you all the best of luck. DIY number 3. So for this craft, you're going to need some pumpkins that look cheap and nasty that you want to upgrade a little bit. I want more pumpkins for the buckets and crates that I've been making, and this pumpkin that I have just looks like really shiny plastic in real life, and I wanted to make it more softer. And what actually ends up happening at the end was a super pleasant surprise. You'll see it, but it comes out like velvety looking. It looks really, really good, almost like a real pumpkin. So I'm just using the white primer by Kills again, and I'm covering it up, and those leaves on the top are glued down, and when I tried to tear them off, I realized I was actually going to damage the pumpkin and the leaf, and I didn't want to lose those, so I went ahead and painted around it. So the first thing I do is put primer on because it's real shiny, and then I'm taking that antique parchment from Apple Barrel Paint, and I'm going to do a coat of that. Now, you also saw me pull in camera view 2 Dollar Tree burlap pumpkins. Now, usually my style is to leave those alone because I kind of like that really simple farmhouse look. But for some reason, you guys, I think it's this ribbon. I'm in love with this lace ribbon. I just wanted to give these guys a farmhouse facelift. I just wanted them to be a little bit more decorative than just plain. And you can see that pumpkin. Look at how velvety that came out. It came out so, so pretty. I was so surprised and so happy. I also added a little bit of the antique parchment. I just dry brushed it on the leaves to tone them down as well. So you see those are a little bit lighter now as well. And all I'm doing is cutting the ribbon and gluing it in the little grooves of the pumpkin. And I'm going to do lace for the beige burlap pumpkin. And I'm going to choose a really, really pretty country type checkered ribbon. It might even be buffalo check. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at it up close again. But I used that for the orange burlap, and they come up super, super cute. I'm zooming in here to show you a nice little trick there when you get around the stem to make it look more natural. Otherwise you're going to have you don't want the really square ends. I take that little spatula. A lot of people ask me about that. That is a silicone makeup spatula. You can find it at the Dollar Tree, Walmart, or Amazon. I have the link below down in my description box. But they are great for hot glue because they don't melt and it saves your finger, and they're really small and easy to work with. But you saw me shove that ribbon down at the corners on every single corner to make it look like it was coming out where the stem area was, and that was a nice little trick. It came out really pretty and it hid the edges and made it look a lot more natural. And I'm just taking some florals here from Walmart in a great green color. You can use whatever you want. I just love that color for fall. I think it blends in nicely. Christmas too. And now I'm tackling the orange pumpkin here. Gonna keep it nice and rustic here while adding a little bit of extra. And don't forget to follow me on Pinterest and Instagram. I've got a really neat thing going on Pinterest. If you make a craft and I've inspired you to make that craft, you can send me a photo on Instagram or on Pinterest. Now, the way you send it on Pinterest is you make your photo a pin and then send it to me in a private message, and I can download it from there. And if you want to delete it afterwards, you can, but it gives you options. And that way I share it to the board, and it's a great way for us to keep in touch with each other and celebrate each other's crafts. And it's just been a lot of fun. So thank you to everyone who has shared their crafts. We've got a great board going, so check it out when you get a chance. And here's the final result, you guys, and I love these. I know I always say that, but I really love these. These are hitting the sweet spot for me, folks. I think it's so awesome that I took cheap pumpkins from a Dollar Tree and dressed them up like they are expensive high-end boutique pumpkins. I've seen pumpkins like this up in a mountain resort I used to visit, and they're going for like $12.99, and it's so easy to do yourself, you guys, and it adds so much charm. Super, super cute. DIY number 4. For this craft, you're going to need some wood. I'm just using that cheap wood from Lowe's and a farmer's market calendar. And you only need 2 paint sticks. You can also use the shims, and this is the utility panel I am using. I mentioned in my previous video, I did the math, And square signs, you can get about $35 to $36 Dollar Tree signs out of there, which would cost you $36 if you bought them at the Dollar Tree. And for the rectangle signs, you can get about 38 to 40 depending on the width out of that utility panel. So that would cost you about $40 if you get it from the Dollar Tree. So just an option for those of you that have cutting tools. This is a great way, if you see crafters just crafting with the square or the rectangle signs, to get them for far, far less than what you would pay at the Dollar Tree. The easiest way to get your paper measured for the palette is just to lay it face down on a cutting board like you see me doing here, and then lay the wood palette strips on top of it, and then make your little slice on the back, and you'll get, you know, an approximate fit. It'll be close enough because I'm going to be tearing my edges, so it doesn't have to be perfect. My decor is very rustic, so it's all good if it doesn't have the perfect clean edges. And also, you guys, I'm going to be using school glue here. Now, I'm doing that on purpose because here's a nice little tip that you guys may find comes in handy. When you use school glue and you put your, you know, whatever you're gluing down, you glue it down and then you hit it with a wet sponge, wrinkles happen. Whereas with Mod Podge, if you do that, it tends to help get rid of the wrinkles. Now, Mod Podge is completely different as far as structure. It's got plastic in it, and I suspect it's kind of stretchy. And that's why we, you know, it just reacts different. When you hit it with water, it helps get wrinkles out. School glue does the exact opposite. It starts crunching up and wrinkling, and the paper shrivels. This is exactly what I'm going for, because what I'm going to try and imitate here is how wood bubbles up and wrinkles and lifts when it's really old. I had an old sign when I lived up in my old, you know, home area, and it had the 4 seasons, so I got snow, and the wood had paint on it. It always had a look where everything was lifting and bubbling where the snow landed all the time. So this is what I'm going to try and do with this sign, so it doesn't look like I just glued paper on it. I'm also just putting an arrow there showing you, or at least reminding you, to make sure you tear that hole off at the top so it doesn't look like a calendar. You've got to make your tear there. And now I'm starting my process here with the wet sponge. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but it starts wrinkling up beautifully, and it's going to get like a shriveled look. And then when I hit it with a little bit of sandpaper, those little raised surfaces get roughed up. They look like paint chipping off. So again, this is a look I'm going for. If you guys don't want to do this, I recommend you use Mod Podge. And I do seal it with Mod Podge. Once you do this, the Mod Podge on top will have no effect whatsoever, but you need to use the glue to get the really good wrinkles. And I'm going to go ahead and switch out the paint sticks and use shims instead. And instead of 3, I'm going to use just 2. I decide that's a little bit of a different look. For those of you that have been watching my videos and you saw me make the palette sign with the apples from the calendar, that's an all year round sign that I'm going to be leaving in my kitchen all year. So I need a fall sign to replace that sign during the seasons, because I obviously am very festive, I decorate. So this is going to be the sign that does that. And I wanted to use shims because it's easy to cut. As you can see, I don't have to take it outside and saw. I can just cut it with just regular old scissors. That's, well, it goes down thinner at the end, so you can cut it with scissors when it's thin at the end. You can't cut the top. With scissors, you'll need a saw, but that's one of the great things about shims, is you can adjust their size really, really easy, and they're super, super cheap to buy. And I'm just putting 2 on the back here. And then you're going to see me go ahead and take some black paint, because that's my favorite paint to make things look old and dirty and weathered, because obviously this looks too clean. Even though it's nice and wrinkled, it doesn't look like it's been outside for a long time. So I'm going to hit it and dirty it up with a little bit of black paint, including the back shims. You're going to see me hit those as well with a smaller brush, so that we get a nice old, distressed, weathered looking palette sign. And in a minute here, you're going to see how those wrinkles look and the whole distress look. It just comes out totally good, you guys. It looks like a real, well, as close as you're going to get to a legitimate old farmhouse sign that's been outdoors for a while. Here it is, you guys. Check out those lines I was talking about. Do you see what I'm talking about? It looks less like paper and more like paint. I mean, you can only do so much because it is paper, but this technique really helps pull it off a little bit more to make it look a little bit more high-end. And I absolutely love the way this came out. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. It really does help YouTube notice my channel. And until the next video, breathe deep, fret not, and do things that make you happy.